Hello, everyone. Today I'd like to talk about Frank Mills and really more specifically the lost art of the pop instrumental. Now, I never heard of this guy until I got the CD, and I got this CD by chance. I don't even know what store this was from, but it was most likely in a under $5 clearance bin, and I'm like, what the heck? It had to be actually like $3 or less because I would never spend that kind of money for an artist on a CD that I've never heard of. So, and didn't have any expectations. I looked at the listing on the back here and didn't recognize one thing. So, but what the heck? I mean, it was cheap and took it home. And this is back in, I like to say, late 90s. I got this album. So, and then when I got home and I actually had a chance to play the very first song, now when I heard this song, the first song that came out, Music Box Dancer, I was taken aback. In a sense that I was basically dreaming that maybe like 5, 6 years back when I first heard this song, I would think of it as a little kid going outside, walking outside, and then there's like these ice cream trucks, right? And they would go around our neighborhood. And I remember when you hear that song, the melody and everything, an ice cream truck's gonna come by. So that was the very first thing that came to my mind immediately when I first heard this song. And for some reason, I always thought this song was like a what you call it? Like a rhyme, a traditional rhyme or nursery rhyme, kind of like a London Bridge is falling down. I always thought that melody was that instrumental was just a something from a really long time ago nursery rhyme or something like that. So and without vocals or anything. That's what I always thought it was. But then when I first heard it coming out from Frank Mills, this CD in particular, I thought, hey, maybe this guy's just playing popular hits or popular instrumentals or something. That's what I originally thought. And then listening to the whole CD, it was very good. And they were all kind of similar in style where it's just the piano instrumental music. And there's a few songs on here that I really like the Peter Piper. There's a few others on here. But after listening to the CD, I always had to go back to the first song and I put it on repeat on my CD player because I really, really, really enjoyed the Music Box Dancer. And after listening to the CD as first time as a kid, I realized this guy's kind of like other artists at the time I had in mind, like a Percy Faith or Roger Williams. I always thought they were instrumentalists, like they just perform instrumentals. But then kind of reading through the booklet here and realizing that he wrote all the songs on here. So he actually composed all the songs, including Music Box Dancer. And that's when I was trying to understand, hey, this guy actually wrote the theme song for the ice cream truck. And how's that possible? Because this is back in like when I hear the ice cream truck. This was like early '90s as a kid and things like that. And I just realized, oh, this is back in the '80s when this came out. And then most likely the songs that he made on here came out before then, so in the '70s. So it wasn't a nursery rhyme or anything like that. It was literally an actual song, and it was an instrumental. So after hearing this, and knowing that he composed all his songs, or majority of them, I think at least on here, they're all his songs. I'm trying to find an artist to compare him to. And again, it's just instrumental, not jazz ish. It's not jazz though. I wouldn't consider it jazz. It's just straight instrumental, and it's not like an orchestra. So I'm trying to eliminate like a Roger Williams, a Percy Faith. They usually are in an orchestra and things like that. And then the two artists that come to my mind, thinking just piano instrumentals, would be Roger Clayderman and Liberace. And even those two, and I think Liberace is probably the most popular. Majority of the songs, if I understood that they played, aren't their songs. They just kind of cover and then play in their own style, piano instrumental style. So Frank Mills in this regard is very unique. I mean, he's strictly a instrumentalist, and piano being the main instrument, and just yeah, it's just instrumentals, piano instrumentals, non-jazz, nothing like that. Yet he composed them all, and there might be other artists I can't think of or I don't know of that are similar to him, but for sure Frank Mills must be from a popularity standpoint in terms of success with his music, he's probably the most popular of them all. So anyway, that's Frank Mills, and I picked up his other albums eventually. Let me show it to you. But they're not in CD; they're on vinyl. So I did pick up Music Box Dancer, and then Frank Mills, his album. So I picked both of these up, and yeah, just confirmed that he just makes music, pop instrumentals, and then just playing the piano, and they're all good for what he's done. I actually like majority of the stuff he's made. So he's a guy I definitely recommend. Now, going into this and thinking about Frank Mills, I'm trying to think of whatever happened to this type of music. And when I mean this type of music, that pop instrumental that is pop, like popular, and that might actually hit the Billboard or gets charted, or at least there's a lot of airplay that people would recognize. And it's not like jazz, like straight jazz, or whether it's smooth jazz or something like that, or jazz covers or things like that. And that is original, like Frank Mills. He composed his own music. There's some instrumentals that are popular because they're covers of something, or they were made for themes, like a movie theme or a TV theme. I'm thinking like Nadia's theme. That was a movie theme originally, and then was popular as a TV theme and in the Olympics. But I'm trying to get away from that. Just straight an artist that would create pop instrumentals. Piano could be it could be guitar or something like that. That is not really jazz, but just kind of like what Frank Mills does, and original and is popular. And I can't really think of anything since Frank Mills, really. After him, the only thing I can think of is Axel Foley, the theme song to, Beverly Hills Cop. Things like that are kind of, they're tied into some kind of movie or something. But as for an original composition that's not tied, that came later than Frank Mills, this is the thing I can think of. And it's the only one. Okay, that was Robert Miles' Children. And I think that came out, I don't remember when, like late 90s, mid to late 90s, I think. And that actually was charted and was pretty popular. I mean, you can't miss it from the radio. There's some others too, I think Sandstorm, but to me that's, I would probably put that as a pop instrumental, but that's more, to me, more EDM-ish rather than an instrumental, like a regular pop instrumental. But it's still an instrumental, I guess, even though it's probably more electronic instrumental than a regular, instrument. But that's the only I can think of. And then speaking of EDM, a lot of EDM music, especially in the late 2000s, early 2010s, technically speaking, majority of the songs, the popular ones from EDM, that genre, are instrumental, but then there's always a vocal somewhere here and there, whether it's just a hook or just small lines like for a chorus, and that's it. But because of that, I don't consider that like a pop instrumental. That's just really EDM. So besides Robert Miles' Children, that to me I would consider a pop instrumental, I can't think of anything else since then or before up till like Frank Mills who's made something like this and became popular, or even just made music like this, popular or not. I just can't think of anything. And to me, it's a lost art. I don't think anyone would want to, that would write music or something like that, or wants to be popular in the music industry would do something like this as a make pop instrumentals, because I think it's just I hate to say this, but kind of like a dead genre of music. Even though, personally, for number one, I do like it. As long as you can write melodies, the melody is great, like Music Box Dancer. I could care less whether there's vocals or not. And number two, I always thought making like a pop instrumental would be a lot easier than jazz, because jazz requires, outside of some of the crappy smooth jazz stuff you listen to, but it requires a lot more, I guess, sophistication. Well, it's not just melody driven, but there's other parts involved, maybe from an instrumentation standpoint, a musicianship, how good you are playing an instrument, things like that. Not saying that Frank Mills doesn't have it or anything. I think he's great at what he does. I'm just saying from a music standpoint, I think jazz is. I would put jazz out of the pop instrumental. But I think jazz is, well, not only that, I think jazz is a bit harder from a composition standpoint and making something that's popular or that would be a hit. Number two, I think it would be a lot easier than just making pop music, because a typical pop song, right? Because not only you got to make a popular or a good melody, a good song to it, background, the music itself, but you got to make lyrics to it. Now, you can argue lyrics these days are kind of, there's not much thought into it, but you still got to write vocals. You still got to write lyrics and have someone sing it along with the melody, the instruments, the song you make. So to me, that's harder to do than like a pop instrumental. So I don't know why no one does it these days, or at least it's popular. I've never heard of anything the past, for the longest time now, since probably Robert Miles, and nor do it's in my radar, because I don't think anyone comes close to doing something like it. Even niche artists, never heard of anyone doing something like this. So to me, that pop instrumental genre of music to me is pretty much dead. I don't think anyone is doing that or wants to do anything like that, and that's a shame, because it's great stuff like what Frank Mills does. Heck, even if it's something for a movie, it has to be built for a movie, like a movie theme or a TV theme, and it's just straight pop instrumental, like just instrumental. I would go for that too. Kind of like I did a video in the past about those TV themes. They were the best were like in the like 70s through the 80s, I say, and then after that they kind of went downhill from there. But if anyone can make a good pop instrumental, I think it would be great for just in general, for music in general, because there's another alternative, or an old school alternative to come back besides all the stuff we listen today. And I think to me, at least I think it's easier to get into if you can write great melodies and so forth, and can play it too, as opposed to doing a song where you got to have someone singing too, and you got to write lyrics for that or things like that. It just complicates things more. So anyway, that's all I wanted to get to. Definitely, I wish there are people today that would go kind of like the Frank Mills route and just make pop instrumental melodies. That's all. Just do that. Do it on your own. And I'm not talking about like how hip hop producers and so forth, they kind of make tracks like that too, and then kind of make the sounds, the beats and so forth. Just not like that. Just flat out on an instrument, just a piano, and just do something like this. And make some songs out of it. And who knows, if you know how to make melodies great and all that, you can come out and make a hit song like Frank Mills and so forth. And he's got a few hits. I'm not saying it's just a one-hit wonder. He's got a few hits. So, but either way, all his stuff is good, no doubt about it. I highly recommend Frank Mills. If you don't know him, give him a shot. And I just wish people today, everyone complains about music this, music that, how bad it is, and so forth. If you want to get into the basics, and I'm not saying this is unsophisticated, it's sophisticated, but just get back to basic, music, melody making, and so forth. I can't think of a better way than a pop instrumental. Anyway, let me know what you think. Thanks. Bye.